Have you ever felt the weight of the world on your shoulders? That constant noise, a cacophony of notifications, expectations, urgent news, and the silent pressure to be more, do more, have more. In the midst of this whirlwind, where do we find a place to simply breathe? Where is the refuge for our tired minds? This search for peace is not a luxury, it is a profound need of the human soul. And what if I told you that this refuge is not in a distant place, on an exotic vacation, or in a reality that has not yet arrived? What if I told you that it already exists intact within you? This is the great invitation of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy forged in the minds of emperors like Marcus Aurelius and slaves like Epictetus, which offers us not an escape from reality, but a map to navigate it with strength, dignity, and above all, an unshakable peace. Today, we are not just going to talk about philosophy. We are going to open the doors to your inner sanctuary. This is not a video to be merely watched. It is a space to be inhabited, a pause for your soul to reconnect and strengthen itself. Together, we will learn the art of calming the mind, no matter how strong the storm is outside. The promise is one of transformation, a silent yet powerful transformation that begins with a single decision: to look within. Making these videos is my great passion, and your subscription is the greatest encouragement I can receive. If you can, please click the subscribe button to help me reach the goal of 1,000 subscribers. Chapter 1. The Unbreakable Fortress of the Mind. Understanding what you truly control. Let's begin with the foundation of all inner peace, the first and most liberating lesson of Stoicism, articulated with cutting clarity by the philosopher Epictetus, who knew the extremes of life, from slavery to freedom. He teaches us the dichotomy of control, an idea so simple yet so revolutionary that once understood, it forever changes the way you see life. Epictetus said, "The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control." Imagine an archer. He prepares for the shot. He can control the choice of the bow, the quality of the arrow, the training of his posture, the strength with which he pulls the string, the focus of his aim, and the exact moment he releases the arrow. All of this is within his power. However, the moment the arrow leaves the bow, it enters the domain of the uncontrollable. A sudden gust of wind, a sudden movement of the target, the humidity in the air, all of this can alter its trajectory. The wise archer, the stoic archer, understands this perfectly. He invests all his energy in the excellence of the act of shooting, but he accepts the result with serenity, whatever it may be. His satisfaction does not come from hitting the target, but from having made the best possible shot. Now bring this metaphor into your life. How many times a day do we suffer from clinging to the flight of the arrow? We worry about what others will think of us, uncontrollable, about the traffic, uncontrollable, about the country's economy, uncontrollable, about an illness that may or may not arise, uncontrollable, about the behavior of our adult children, uncontrollable. We spend our vital energy, our peace of mind, in a futile struggle against the wind. Stoicism calls us to a radical redirection of focus. Concentrate on what is yours and yours alone, your opinions, your judgments, your intentions, your values, your actions. This is where your true power lies, your inner citadel. When someone offends you, you do not control the words that come out of that person's mouth, but you absolutely control how you choose to interpret those words. You can choose to feel offended, or you can choose to see it as the noise of someone who is perhaps suffering. When you face a challenge at work, you do not control your boss's demands or the market conditions, but you control your dedication, your honesty, your creativity, and your perseverance. Peace does not come from the absence of problems, but from the awareness that, in the midst of any problem, there is a domain that is inviolable, that of your own mind, that of your own will. This perception is the first step to building an internal fortress, a place of calm that no external circumstance can shake. It is the liberation from the chronic anxiety that plagues our society. It is the recovery of your emotional sovereignty. If this reflection on finding power in what you control has already brought some relief to your heart, show your support with a like. It's a small gesture that shows me we are on the right path together. Chapter 2. The Noise of the World and the silence of the soul. How to protect yourself from the opinions of others. Once we understand where our power lies, we encounter one of the greatest thieves of peace in the human experience, our need for external validation, our chronic fear of others' judgment. We live in an age of constant exposure. Every thought, every photo, every achievement seems to beg for approval, and in this process, we hand over the keys to our happiness and well-being to others, casual spectators of our lives. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world at his time, struggled with this very issue in his personal notes, which we know today as meditations. He wrote to himself as a reminder, "At all times maintain a robust attention to executing the task in front of you with precision and dignity, free from all other distractions." Yes, free. If you free yourself from the worry about what others will say or think or do. In another passage he marvels, "I love humanity, but I am baffled by people. We spend all day worrying about others, but we rarely dedicate time to our own soul. We seek the approval of people who do not even approve of themselves." This is an uncomfortable but profoundly liberating truth. The people whose judgment we fear most are themselves drowning in their own insecurities. They are too busy worrying about what you and others think of them. It is a grand theater of mutual anxieties. Stoicism invites us to leave this stage. Inner peace flourishes when we stop outsourcing our self-worth. Your value is not a stock on the stock market, fluctuating with the whims of public opinion. It is an intrinsic constant defined by your character, your intentions, and your virtues. How can we, in practice, protect ourselves from this noise? It begins with serene indifference. Seneca, another great Stoic, advised that when we hear an insult, we should ask ourselves, is this true? If it is, then it is a criticism I should consider for improvement. If it is not, why should I care about a falsehood? This logic disarms the emotional power of the insult. It becomes either useful feedback or irrelevant noise. There is no room for the pain of offense. Another practice is honest self-assessment. At the end of the day, instead of asking, "What did others think of me today?" ask yourself, "Did I act according to my values? Was I honest? Was I fair? Was I brave?" The focus shifts from the court of public opinion to the sanctuary of your own conscience. Building this protection is like developing an emotional muscle. At first, it's difficult. The habit of seeking approval is deeply ingrained. But every time you consciously choose not to be shaken by a comment, every time you act from your inner conviction instead of fear of judgment, this muscle strengthens. You begin to realize that the tranquility that comes from within is much more stable and gratifying than the fleeting applause that comes from without. You become the only judge that truly matters in your life. And in that silence, in that space free from the noise of others, your soul finally finds the quiet to flourish. Chapter 3. The Radical Acceptance of Now. Amor Fati and the Beauty of Fate. We have already mastered what we can control and shielded ourselves from external noise. But what about those things that simply happen? The reversals of fortune, unexpected losses, illnesses, tragedies. These are events that do not ask for permission to enter our lives and have the power to tear us apart. It is here that Stoicism presents us with one of its most powerful and perhaps most difficult tools, the art of acceptance. But not a passive, resigned acceptance, but an active, strong, and even loving acceptance. It is what the 19th century philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche named with a Latin expression that echoes the Stoic spirit, Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. Nietzsche declared, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, but love it." This sounds radical, perhaps even impossible. Love the pain, love the loss, love the difficulty. The idea is not to develop a masochistic pleasure in suffering. The idea is to understand that every event in our life, the good and the bad, the easy and the difficult, is an indispensable thread in the tapestry of our existence. To try to remove one thread, however painful, is to unravel the whole. The Stoics called this the art of acquiescence. It is recognizing that the universe, or nature, operates according to its own logic, much larger than ours. To fight against this logic is like trying to row against a powerful current. It is exhausting and useless. Wisdom lies in turning the boat around and using the force of the current to our advantage. How can we do this? By transforming every obstacle into an opportunity. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius gave us the perfect formula. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think of an illness that forces you to reevaluate your priorities and take better care of yourself. The obstacle, the illness, became the way to a healthier life. Think of a layoff that forces you to discover a new talent or start the business of your dreams. The obstacle, the layoff, became the way to your true calling. Think of a broken heart that teaches you about your own limits, your resilience, and the depth of your ability to love again with more wisdom. The obstacle, the pain, became the way to emotional maturity. Amor Fati is the conscious decision not to waste energy lamenting what could have been. It is to look at your life with all its scars and triumphs and say a resounding yes to it all. Yes, this happened. Yes, it hurt. And yes, it made me who I am today. And for this journey, I am grateful. This attitude does not make us immune to pain, but it prevents us from adding a second layer of suffering, the suffering of non-acceptance, of rebellion, of resentment. To radically accept the now is to find peace not in spite of life's challenges, but because of them. It is the alchemy of the soul which transforms the lead of suffering into the gold of wisdom. Now, I want to hear your voice. What was the biggest obstacle life presented you with that, looking back, you realize became the way to something new? Share your story of resilience in the comments. Your journey could be the light someone needs to start loving their own fate. Chapter 4. Diary of an Emperor. The practice of nightly reflection for mental clarity. We have explored the great ideas that underpin Stoic peace. Now let's delve into one of the most intimate and transformative practices they left us. A tool that requires nothing more than a notebook, a pen, and a few minutes of silence at the end of your day. I'm talking about the practice of the philosophical diary, or nightly reflection, immortalized in Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which, as we've seen, was not a book for publication, but a personal journal of self-analysis and encouragement. In a world that constantly pushes us toward distraction, the act of sitting with oneself in silence is a revolutionary act. It is a commitment to self-knowledge. Seneca described his own nightly ritual in one of his letters. When the light has been removed and my wife, already aware of my habit, has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go back over my deeds and words. I hide nothing from myself. I pass nothing by. He did this not to punish himself, but to learn, to become a little better the next day. This practice is a powerful antidote to the reactive, unconscious life that many of us lead. We spend our days rushing, putting out fires, reacting to stimuli, and rarely do we stop to ask, why did I do that? What was I feeling? Did I act wisely? The Stoic diary is that sacred pause. It allows us to be the observer of our own life, instead of just the hurried actor on the stage. How to start? It's simple. At the end of the day, find a quiet place. Open your notebook and reflect on a few fundamental questions inspired by the Stoics. What did I do well today? Start with the positive. Acknowledge your small acts of virtue, patience, or kindness. This reinforces the behavior you want to cultivate. Maybe you were patient in traffic. Maybe you listened attentively to a friend. Maybe you completed a task you had been putting off. Celebrate these victories. Where did I fail? How could I have acted better? This is the part of radical honesty, but without self-flagellation. Were you impatient with a loved one? Did you give in to anger? Did you procrastinate on an important responsibility? Just observe, without harsh judgment. The goal is awareness, not guilt. Seneca would say to himself, see that you don't do that again. This time I forgive you. What duty did I leave unfulfilled? This reconnects us with our purpose. Was there something important you set out to do and didn't? Reflect on why. Was it fear? Laziness? Distraction? Identifying the cause is the first step to overcoming it tomorrow. How did I apply Stoic principles today? Reflect on the concepts we are discussing. At what point did I distinguish between what I control and what I don't? How did I deal with the opinions of others? Did I accept what came my way with serenity? This exercise transforms philosophy from something you read into something you live. Doing this consistently, night after night, creates a powerful feedback loop for your personal development. You begin to understand your own behavioral patterns, your emotional triggers, your weaknesses, and your strengths. The diary becomes a mirror of your soul and a wise counselor. You stop stumbling through life and start walking with intention. This practice doesn't solve all the world's problems, but it gives you back the helm of your own ship. And over time, this mental clarity, this honest conversation with yourself, transforms into a deep and lasting inner peace. Chapter 5. The view from the cosmos. Finding serenity by looking from above our lives, seen up close, can seem like a succession of crises, worries, and urgent dramas. A missed work deadline, an argument with a friend, an unexpected bill. These events can consume our entire field of vision, generating disproportionate anxiety. The Stoics, with their practical wisdom, developed a mental antidote to this existential myopia, a visualization exercise known as the view from above, or as some call it, Plato's view. Marcus Aurelius constantly practiced this in his meditations. He would advise himself, think often of the speed with which all existing things and things in the process of coming into being pass by and disappear. What does human life seem like to a man who is filled with such grand thoughts? At another point he instructs, look down from above on the countless herds of men and their countless solemnities, and the infinitely varied voyagings in storms and calms, and the differences among those who are born, who live together and who die. Look at all this and see how it is all a mixture, and how order arises from the combination of opposites. Let's do this exercise together now. Close your eyes for a moment if you can. Imagine you begin to float out of your body, rising gently. You see the room you are in, then your house, your neighborhood. Keep rising. See your city becoming a tangle of lights, then your state, your country becoming just a patch on the outline of the continent. Rise higher. See planet Earth, a blue and white sphere suspended and silent in the black velvet of space, a jewel floating in the immensity. From up there, try to find yourself. Try to locate your problem, that worry that seemed so gigantic just a few minutes ago. Where is it? Amidst billions of other people, on a planet that is just a speck of dust in a galaxy with hundreds of billions of stars, which in turn is just one among hundreds of billions of galaxies. What happens to your anxiety when viewed from this perspective? It doesn't disappear, but it shrinks. It assumes its true size, small, transient, insignificant in the grand scheme of things. This exercise is not intended to invalidate our feelings or make us feel insignificant. On the contrary, it has two powerful purposes. First, it breaks the spell of urgency and panic. It gives us space to breathe and think clearly. Most of the things we worry about fiercely simply won't matter in 10 years, let alone 1,000. The second purpose is to connect us with something larger than ourselves, humanity. From up there, we see that everyone, everywhere, is dealing with their own battles, their own fears, their own hopes. This generates a profound sense of humility and compassion. We realize that we are not alone in our struggles. Practicing the view from above regularly is a workout for the mind. It's learning to take an emotional step back, not to be hijacked by the tyranny of the present moment. It's finding serenity not by eliminating problems, but by putting them in their proper perspective. It is to understand, as the Stoics understood, that we are small actors on a vast and wonderful cosmic stage. And this understanding, paradoxically, does not diminish us, but frees us to live our small lives with more grace, courage, and peace. If this change of perspective has brought you a moment of calm and clarity, leave a like on this video. It's a sign that we are succeeding, together, in looking beyond the horizon of our immediate concerns. Chapter 6. Memento Mori. How awareness of death teaches us to live fully. We now arrive at the final and perhaps most paradoxical pillar of Stoic philosophy for finding peace, the meditation on our own mortality. The Latin expression memento mori translates as, remember that you are mortal. In our modern culture, which denies death and seeks eternal youth, this may sound morbid, depressing. But for the Stoics, and for many other, wisdom traditions facing the finitude of life is not a source of fear, but rather the most powerful catalyst for a full, virtuous, and purposeful life. Seneca, in his work on the shortness of life, is categorical. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. The awareness of death is what wakes us up from the trance of procrastination and triviality. How many of us live as if we had all the time in the world? We postpone that important conversation, that project we're passionate about, that gesture of forgiveness, that "I love you." We say, "Tomorrow, next year, when I retire." Memento mori is an urgent whisper in our ear. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. The only time we truly own is now. Remembering death puts everything into perspective. The small irritations, the grudges, the ego disputes, all of this fades. In the face of the reality of our impermanence, Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. This is not a call to recklessness, but to virtuous urgency. If this were your last day, would you spend your time arguing over small things, holding grudges, worrying about the opinions of strangers? Or would you seek connection, contribution, kindness, peace? Death is the great equalizer. It will come for the rich and the poor, the famous and the anonymous. Knowing this frees us from envy and comparison. What is the point of envying someone's wealth if the final destination for both is the same? Instead, the question becomes, with the time I have been given, how can I live as meaningfully as possible? The Stoic answer is clear. Live with virtue. Be honest, just, brave, wise. Because in the end, what we take with us are not our possessions or our status, but the legacy of our character. Meditating on memento. Mori is not about sitting in a dark room thinking about coffins. It is, upon waking, to feel the preciousness of the new day. It is to look at the people you love and truly see them, knowing that your time with them is finite and therefore sacred. It is to decide not to waste a single moment on what doesn't matter. Paradoxically, it is the awareness of death that gives us permission to live without fear. If the worst that can happen is inevitable, why not risk, love, create, and live with total intensity and authenticity now? The peace that comes from this realization is profound. It is the peace of one who is no longer at war with time, but dances with it, appreciating every note of the melody until it gently comes to an end. And now, one last reflection for you. If you knew you only had one more year to live, what would you change immediately? What trivialities would you abandon? And what would you finally embrace with all your heart? Leave your honest answer in the comments. Your honesty can inspire all of us to live more authentically, starting today. Carrying peace in the heart. We have traveled a long journey together. We started in the chaos of the outside world and traveled to the silent sanctuary that exists within each of us. We learned from Epictetus to focus only on what we can control, building our inner fortress. With Marcus Aurelius, we learned to free ourselves from the weight of others' opinions, finding our worth in our own conscience. We embraced Amor Fati, the radical acceptance of our fate, turning obstacles into the way. We discovered the power of daily reflection, of conversing with our own soul. We broadened our perspective to the vastness of the cosmos, watching our anxieties shrink. And finally, with Memento Mori, we learned that the awareness of death is what teaches us to live fully. Peace, as we have seen, is not a final destination, a paradise without problems. It is an art, a daily practice. It is the ability to carry serenity in your heart, no matter the turmoil outside. It is the conscious decision to be the guardian of your own inner citadel. Take these lessons with you. Let them seep into your days. When anxiety strikes, remember the archer. When the fear of judgment arises, remember the silence of your soul. When life presents you with a challenge, whisper to yourself, Amor Fati. Peace is now within your reach. It is yours to cultivate. It is yours to live. If this journey resonated with you and you wish to continue exploring the paths to a more meaningful and peaceful life, your subscription to the channel is the greatest support I can receive. Join our community of seekers. Click subscribe, and let's continue this conversation together.